All right, happy Tuesday morning here. We're going to get back to some World War II and chapter 30, section 1. I'm sorry, chapter 32, section 1 this morning. Yesterday we had talked about Hitler starting the war by invading Poland. At that point, Britain and France knew that they couldn't appease him anymore, so they declared war on Germany. Then nothing happens for about 6 or 7 months. And Hitler kind of lulls them to sleep a little bit. And then he starts attacking these smaller countries: Denmark, Norway, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, and he knocks those out pretty quickly. And then he goes on to France, which was one he really wanted badly because they had defeated Germany in World War I. So he's trying to get some revenge here in World War II, and he does relatively easily. The French army has to be rescued off the beaches of Dunkirk. We talked about that yesterday. There's a movie about that, by the way, called Dunkirk. Then he wants to go after Britain, which is an island nation. He's going to use his air force called the Luftwaffe, the best planes and best pilots in the world, and they're just going to start bombing Britain, specifically like the highly populated areas like London and the large cities, trying to destroy the British people's will to fight. And the British do fairly well because they've got these two secret weapons, the radar and Enigma, which was a code-breaking machine. So they kind of know, they know when the Germans are coming before the Germans even get there. So they're able to get up, get their planes up in the air and fight back. So it wasn't an easy battle by any means. I mean, it was a long, nasty battle of Britain, but the British are going to be able to hold off the Germans. So Hitler gets impatient, not winning the Battle of Britain. So he shifts gears and he's going to go do some other things. He's going to turn his attention to the Mediterranean area, like Greece and North Africa, and even further into Eastern Europe. And that's what the rest of this section is about. So from Britain, and by the way, Hitler hasn't forgotten about Britain. He's always planning on going back there later and finishing off that job. But it was taking too long, so he's going to go try to do some other things. Okay, so the next place he goes is North Africa. So he's got a buddy, Mussolini, right? And when all this fighting broke out, Mussolini and Italy attacked North Africa. Britain had some colonies down there from imperialism, like Egypt. So Italy and Mussolini are going to attack Egypt and take it from England, from Britain. Especially because there is an important canal down there at this point, man-made canal called the Suez Canal. And Britain had to have control of that canal to get to its oil fields in that region. So Italy is trying to take that land, take control of that canal, which would make it hard for the Allies to get to the oil fields, but it would allow the Axis powers to take control of those oil fields. Well, the British are not just going to go down in North Africa without a fight, and they start to fight back against the Italians and Mussolini's army, and it doesn't go well for Mussolini's army. Mussolini's army is going to, they're going to get beat kind of bad by the British, and so bad that Hitler has to come down there and bail his ally out. Not Hitler himself, but Hitler sends his army down there, led by a pretty famous Nazi general called Erwin Rommel. And his specialty Rommel's specialty were tanks. He's a tank guy, and he's going to end up doing very well in the desert with his tanks. The deserts of North Africa with his tanks, and that's going to earn him the nickname the Desert Fox. So Hitler sends Erwin Rommel and his group of tanks. It was called the Afrika Korps, and they're going to go down there to bail Mussolini out. And like I said, Rommel's very successful down there. He's going to go down there and have some success against the British. So he has immediate success, and the British kind of fight back a little bit, and then he he wins a stunning victory against the British. So, long story short, Hitler, Mussolini, they have firm control of North Africa, okay? And the British are in trouble down there in the deserts of North Africa. Okay, so Hitler is going to double-cross Stalin. You know, they had the non-aggression pact where they promised not to be aggressive towards each other. And when you have a pact between two brutal dictators, you know, one of them is bound to double-cross the other. And it's going to be Hitler who's going to double-cross Stalin. But to plan or prepare for an invasion of the Soviet Union, he has to get some other land nearby to invade from. So he starts in Eastern Europe. He starts taking over land in that peninsula called the Balkan Peninsula. We talked about it in World War I. It's kind of where World War I started. Hitler's going to go to that region and start taking over land. He persuades, so he talks Bulgaria and Romania and Hungary into joining. So he didn't really have to conquer them. He just talked them into joining his team. Yugoslavia, which was a new country, which included like Bosnia and Serbia and Croatia, they resisted. Greece also resisted. Let's see, Yugoslavia, they fought hard for 11 days, but then they surrendered. And then Greece fought hard for 17 days, and then they ended up surrendering. So during World War II, the Nazis do control Greece. They do control all those ancient sites in Greece, and there's, you know, all these pictures of swastikas hanging off the Parthenon and all these historic sites in Athens. So I'll show you some of those right here. All right, so once Hitler has Eastern Europe and the Balkans under his control, he's ready for his next huge task, and that was invading the Soviet Union. So that starts June 22nd, 1941. He's going to invade the Soviet Union. Soviet Union is not prepared. They're not expecting it. They had a deal with Hitler, so they shouldn't have trusted Hitler to begin with. And then also, even though they had a big army, it wasn't a super well prepared army or a well trained army or a well equipped army. So they're not going to be, at first, any match for the German army, which was maybe the best in the world. The Russians used their old tricks like they did against Napoleon, whereas they're retreating. They're burning all their stuff. Hopefully you remember that was called the scorched earth policy, and it worked very well against Napoleon. Probably will work fairly well against the Germans as well. By September, they had gotten to the town of Leningrad. So here's the deal with Russian cities. When Russia becomes communist, a lot of their city names change. You have cities named after these communist leaders now, like Leningrad and Stalingrad. So I believe Leningrad, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Leningrad was St. Petersburg. Let me double check that. I was right. Leningrad was St. Petersburg. Once communism fell, they went back to the old name. So now St. Petersburg is called St. Petersburg again. But when it was the Soviet Union, it was being called Leningrad for a while. I'm sure Peter the Great was real happy about that. But anyway, they're going to take and surround Leningrad, try to cut it off from all food and supplies, try to make the city surrender, make the inhabitants surrender. You can imagine that must have been some pretty tough going there for those Soviets living in that city. The people just did not want to surrender. They started eating cattle and horse feed, not cattle and horses, the cow and horse food. They started eating cats and dogs and crows and rats, anything to survive where they wouldn't have to surrender. So that city fought hard and just refused to surrender, Leningrad. Hitler is going to, again, lose his patience, and he's going to go try to do something else. There are other cities in the Soviet Union that he wanted, so he's going to head to Moscow now. They start attacking Moscow October 2nd, 1941, and by December, they had that city surrounded as well. Now, they still had Leningrad surrounded. Now they're going and they're going to surround Moscow as well. But like I said, it's December, and from World War I and from Napoleon, what happens in Russia or the Soviet Union in December, it gets pretty flippin' cold. And the Germans were still dressed in their summer uniforms, so that was not good for the Nazi army. But Hitler gives the order, no retreat, okay? They are going to just kind of chill out and just try to survive the winter, but they're not allowed to go home. No retreat, hold your ground. We'll wait till winter subsides, and then we'll pick right back up here. But I imagine for those German soldiers, it must have been a pretty awful cold winter. Okay, so to review, Hitler has Poland. He has these smaller European countries like Denmark, Norway, the Netherlands, Belgium. He has France. Italy is his ally. Spain is an ally. Try to get Britain. Going to come back to that later, okay? North Africa he has control of, as well as the Eastern European countries like Yugoslavia and Bulgaria and Romania and Greece, and he's in the process of invading the Soviet Union. So at 1941, Hitler is definitely large and in charge, okay? So he's having a lot of success. As far as America in the late 30s, we were trying to stay out of world affairs. We were very much a neutral country. Congress had passed neutrality acts. We couldn't buy or loan or sell weapons or anything with countries that were at war, even if they were our friends like Britain. He finally convinces Congress to pass the Lend-Lease Act, and this meant we could finally help out our friends. We could lend or lease weapons to any country that was vital to the United States. So, we're not going to go to some far off place that we don't care about and sell them stuff. The country had to be vital to our safety, okay? So Britain, a huge friend of ours, was vital to our safety. If they're in trouble, we need to help them out. And that's what the Lend-Lease Act is going to allow us to do. So President Roosevelt gave a great argument. If your neighbor's house is on fire, you could say, oh, that's not my problem, and not loan them your water hose. That'd be a bad decision though, because you need to help your friend out, because that fire could do what to your house? Then it is your problem. So it'd be very wise to loan your neighbor a hose to put that fire out before it becomes your problem. Same thing. You could say Hitler is somebody else's problem, but Hitler could become your problem soon. So it'd be wise for us here to try to help our allies out and deal with Hitler before it becomes an American problem. So that finishes up chapter 32. I keep saying that. 32, section 1. And going to make a quiz real quick, and hopefully you'll take that today, Tuesday. So we will see y'all tomorrow. Hope y'all have a great Tuesday. It's supposed to be a great day. Get out and enjoy it, as long as you're keeping social distance from each other. So we will see you tomorrow.